And we are live. I'm Two Turtle Tom. Welcome to the Two Turtle Tom live show. We do this every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And tonight, my guest is Josh McNerlin. Josh, welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, Tom. Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. I'm excited to get to know about you and some of the animals you work with, turtles and more. And
A lot more behind
tell
me
us a
there.
little bit about yourself.
I started off as a basic snake breeder. I worked at actually my first job ever was BHB Reptiles, working for Brian Barczyk. So that was a
Wow.
really fun start into the industry. And from there, I really honed in what I wanted to do on sand boas. And moving out to Arizona opened up like the door of being able to keep tortoises outside. So
Mm,
ever since then, I've been building this collection that I'm really proud of, and I hope to do some good with it as I get older.
awesome. So, what part of Arizona are you from, or do
North,
you live now?
I am just south of Flagstaff, the Sedona area.
Mm, beautiful area. I've always wanted to go out there.
I love it. Highly
Red
recommend it.
Rock,
Not a lot of turtles, but it's
really.
beautiful.
Any desert tortoises that far north?
I've not seen them. I've heard they're out here, but they're all elusive to begin with.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember going out to the Arizona desert and just not seeing much of anything, but I
No,
didn't know what I was doing. I needed a guide to tell me what time to go, when to go, where to go, et cetera, et cetera. So, well, let's go to the chat
basically,
and say hi to everybody. Yep. Sam Schulman's here, and um, Hawaii Herpetological. Remind me your name again, Hawaii Herpetological. We're gonna have the um, you and Mike on in the future. Sean Fleming, Wes Coleman, Mike Chan is here, Patrick Lee, Phil Simpson, Mikey Ben. Mikey, great seeing you and hearing from you last night on Sean's show. Michael Thethuvaswamy is here, and Eliza Ann. So some of my chameleon buddies are also here. Thank you for joining us. And we've got Josh McNerlin here. Oh, and Seth Hurst of Hurst Reptiles is also here. Seth made my kind of PVC enclosures that I keep some of my tortoises in. So, welcome everyone.
oh,
We're
cool.
talking to Josh. So, Josh is originally from Michigan.
Yeah, I had to escape the cold.
Now, it can get kind of cold in northern Arizona. Does it snow there ever?
You're sure, but it's nice in that like it snows in the morning and then by evening it's gone. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, and it's always sunny, probably.
yeah, and we've had the rare overcast days in the winter here. Usually all winter almost I can have my tortoises out throughout the daytime. But right now it's just been gloomy and overcast. It's unfortunate,
Mm,
but yeah, we love that sunshine.
yeah. So, work with snakes. What brought you over into the turtles? Being able to keep them outside, was that it?
Yeah, when I was a kid, they were my very first pet at like 2, 3 years old. I had two red-eared sliders, and they were unfortunately released when I was a kid. They got, like, huge, and, I had been put off ever since then, but, just something gets that big, it's hard to keep them indoors in a pond unless you dedicate, like, whole rooms to it like I do now.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, being able to keep them outside was the biggest factor. There
Awesome.
that Arizona sun is wonderful for these animals. A lot better than the lights we set up and spend all sorts of money on.
So, where did you start with colonians once you got out
Uh,
there?
cherry heads. I really love those pretty little tortoises.
Yeah.
I
So
didn't
you
realize how
sh
much conservation work you could do with tortoises. So I got in with the
Mm.
pretty stuff. I'm used to breeding pretty animals,
Yeah, yeah.
and I realized how much more preservation than conservation as I went on. I learned, but you can actually help endangered animals in some way stay on this planet, and that really lit the fire.
Mm, mhm. Yeah. I mean, turtles and tortoises are just threatened. We love them to death for many different
Yeah.
reasons, right?
Yeah, whether you want to eat them or you want to keep them as pets,
Yeah, exactly.
everybody loves them.
We were just before we went live, we were talking about the hingebacks a little bit and how
Oh yeah.
they're eaten in Africa. I mean, there's a few communities that consider them sacred, but very commonly eaten as bushmeat, and in bush they're available in bushmeat markets, and their habitats are getting crushed there too. So that's why home cinchbacks are critically endangered now.
Well, and that breaks my heart too when you think about Arosa, because they're not even listed at the moment, are they? As anything that's defunct
Yeah,
data. I think
the
when they go ahead.
keep going, keep going.
Oh, I think when the data comes out, they're probably going to be closer to functionally extinct. From what I was hearing from the importer when I was working on getting a Rosa, they find 100 to 150 Homiana for every 2 or 3 Arosa they're finding. And it's those numbers are bad. When you realize Homiana are critically endangered, where is that leaving Arosa right now? It's and they're still bringing them out of the country, exporting them. It's rough.
Do you know what country your animals came from?
Most of them. The original ones, I wasn't focused on that, my original group of Homiana, but, yeah, everything I have right now is from Ghana or the Congo.
Yeah, yeah.
All my Arosa are from Ghana.
The There's a lot of Arosa in the Congo rainforest. They're just not very
I
accessible.
hope so.
In West
Yeah, you
Africa, Homiana are more common. There are plenty of Arosa though. It's just hard to get them.
I sure hope
That's the
so.
real challenge. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
that's such dense rainforest.
Yeah. It's thick, and the political situation in the Congo is horrible. And I was talking to someone that got some last year, and I did ask him. I said, "Are you going to do this again?" And he said, "I'll never bring animals in from the Congo ever again because it was just so hard to work with them."
Yeah.
Um, so you've got hingebacks, you've got cherry heads. What
Oh,
else?
I have a nice group of pancake tortoises, all captive bred
Ah,
animals. I started, it's funny enough, I've done really well with the wild caught hingebacks, but my pancakes, I didn't do well with that last group that came into the country before they went CITES 1.
oh,
So everything I
okay.
have is captive bred for these guys, and they're doing really well. I love the pancakes. Such a silly, goofy little tortoise.
I love pancakes, and we have to ask you the question: do they have a strange odor to notice this different smell?
No, this is the first I'm hearing of this.
We ask everybody that question, and some pancake tortoise owners say that there's a very distinct odor that pancake tortoises emit that's different than any other tortoise, and others
Now
say, I don't know what you're talking
you're
about." So
you've got me. You're gonna have me sniffing tortoises tonight. Thank you.
yeah, exactly. And then we have a conversation about sniffing tortoises. So
We'll have a whole hour lecture just on the aromas coming from the
yeah,
different pancakes.
yeah, there you go. And I think my children are trying to kill each other because I just heard a giant thump upstairs. But you sent me an incredible photo of a cherry head.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
More light than dark on the shell. Incredible marbling. Uh, Tell us the story of that animal.
I got him from a mutual friend, Cameron Lamb, or her. I got her
Oh
from
wow!
Cameron. I saw that animal posted, and he hadn't posted it for sale yet. He just posted a picture, and I was
Ah,
like, "Sell?" And he's like, "Yeah."
that's cool.
I immediately drove down to Phoenix and picked her up.
Wow,
I
it's
love
pretty
Cameron.
spectacular. And
Thank
I
you.
mean, you've done such an awesome job raising it. I mean, that thing had like a bowling ball smooth shell.
That's just a nice Arizona sun and more hose action than I can
Yeah.
my water bill can count. Yeah, every summer.
do you have to run a hose that like all
I
day, or I mean,
no, I
pretty
just
dry?
spray them down. Like I spray them down at the heat of the day,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
maybe I'll give them a mist in the morning. That's usually it. Make sure they have access to water.
Hmm. Well, I mean that I've seen few redfoots that smooth, so that's really cool. I was figuring you had it maybe indoors in a closed
I
chamber.
imagine it probably was. It was a bigger size when I got it from Cameron.
Ah, yeah,
So
yeah.
Cameron's he's the man.
He's done a lot of great things for sure.
Oh, for sure.
So
It's always a pleasure running into him at the Phoenix show.
yeah, I got to. When did I went to the conference in 2021 with my son, and that was the first time I had stayed for the show.
That's fine. I barely missed you that day. I
Ah,
was at Cameron's table and he was like, "Oh, I think Tom was just here." I
oh,
like saw
that's
your
funny.
hinge, but he had one of your
Yeah,
Homiana on the table.
yeah, yeah. I'm not. I don't know quite the story, but bottom line, my adult group is owned by someone else, and so we split the offspring. And Cameron got one of those offspring
Cool.
that was my collaborators. So
That
that
was
was that story. I wonder where that animal wound up. I don't know. He-
I think he
Somewhere in
still had it
Arizona.
by the end of that show. Yeah.
Mhm.
Who knows? That he probably could have shipped it to anywhere.
Yeah, totally.
It was a really pretty animal too.
Excuse me. I am getting over, hopefully, this horrible, nasty cold and coughing fit that I have. So, Sean McZoo is here with us. Sean is the Reptile Show reporter. He has that podcast, and that's Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern. So, the are any of your tortoises old enough to lay eggs? You breeding any?
Yeah. I have been producing Homiana eggs for the last 2 years now, and
Okay.
finally have my first fertile eggs. I'm really
Okay.
excited to hatch. They should be due in the next 40, 45 days or so.
Wow.
Fingers crossed. I got nice
Mm,
veins growing in them. You can see little tortoises in there, so
That's
fingers crossed.
there's nothing cooler than a baby Homiana, home
Those,
cinchback. I
those,
love them, man. I
those
love them.
spiky little shells, so cool.
They have long legs. They can crawl over stuff. They eat bugs,
Those buggy
worms,
little eyes. I
meat.
love them.
Yeah. Um, Now, how are you keeping the Homiana out in Arizona?
So everything is indoors. There's no way
Okay.
I'm gonna keep them outside. Just it's too extreme. The temperature change. Too hot in the day. Too cold at night. I keep them at a steady temperature inside around 75 degrees. It fluctuates at night to like maybe 65, but I keep them indoors. And for my first group, they were in quarantine bins for about 3 years before I started
I've heard.
introducing them to each other. Just keeping them it's just really with the first group I had, with how many parasites came out of those wild caught animals, I was really paranoid about breaking the quarantine. But
Mhm,
I
mhm.
house them for a long time. I was housing them individually in the Christmas tree bins, peat moss, hide, fake plants, just spraying them down every other day. I think it was you or Ryan Dumas coined the term benign neglect. They
Yeah,
thrive on that for sure.
yeah, yeah. I mean, you need to intervene, get them hydrated, get them
Exactly.
eating, then medicated, and then leave them alone most of the time.
Yeah, they won't eat when I'm in the room. They don't want me around. If I come in the room an hour after I feed them, they're gonna stop eating. They're just like, "Oh my
Yeah,
god, he's back."
yeah, yeah.
They retreat.
Well, I do have some wild caught that are very friendly and
Oh,
very
I do
good.
too. I
Yeah,
have like two of them. I have 26 hingebacks, and two of them are like they love me, and the rest of them they hate me so much. I don't blame them. People brought them out of the wild. And
yeah.
that's a horrible experience for those little guys living their life as a tortoise, trotting around Africa to come here and part of my breeding program. Uh, Goal is to give them the best life possible while I can, and leave them alone. Keep them happy. Keep them fed, keep them hydrated. But like you said, when they first come in, it's like an ICU care. Like when you're getting wild caught animals,
Yep.
it's you have to not only have so people cheap out and get the wild caughts, and that's a big mistake. And that you have to invest so much time, energy, and money in establishing those animals. Otherwise, you're just gonna be paying for $100 turtle shell with a lot of
That's
those
a really
wild
good
caught animals.
good way of looking at it. I mean, so many people contact me, and we were talking about this before we
Yeah.
went live. Um, hey, I want a tortoise, and there's one for $100. It's a hingeback. I want a hingeback. I want a hingeback. Like they don't really want a hingeback. They just want to pay
They
a
just
hundred
want a
dollars
cheap
for a
animal.
tortoise.
Yeah. I wanted to make hingeback tortoises, and I knew I had the time and the energy and to do so. So I figured while they're being brought in, I might as well establish new bloodlines. And I started with small groups, and I was having 100%, 90% success rates establishing them. So I just kind of kept going from there. And now I've
That's
got
awesome.
a 512 Homiana and a
Wow,
1.6 Erosa. So
fantastic.
I love them. They're probably my favorite, other than maybe the Galop. He's my buddy.
Well, that's a whole different story. I'm going to shout out Jack because Jack comments on all my shorts. So Jack, welcome to the live. Thanks for making it. Hopefully, it's not past your bedtime, but we are a family friendly show, Jack. So don't worry. Okay, a Galapagos tortoise. You are the first guest, I believe, except Will Espinshade, that has a Galap, and yours looks pretty darn big based on that photo you
He,
shared with me.
she's about, or he or she is about 17 inches, so not huge
Okay,
yet,
not quite as big
but
as they look.
no. I love that's my I bought that thing when I was 21, 22 years old, and I'm like,
Uh-huh.
this is gonna be a pet for 20 years, and someday maybe I can breed it. But
Yeah.
I got that was one of the last animals Jerry had available after he stopped producing them. So
Mm,
I feel really lucky to be able to have that guy here.
wow, that is
They're the
super
coolest.
cool. So Jerry does not produce Galaps anymore, huh? He stopped.
He had an unfortunate. It's not that he chose to stop. He had an
Got it.
unfortunate situation where his animals were confiscated, and
Mm,
then he never got the male back that was
mm.
fertile, from what
Oh,
I
wow.
understand. And the male he has now just hasn't figured it out yet. Hopefully he gets some fertile eggs soon, but that takes time with turtles, especially ones that could live 200 years potentially.
How do you have him set up? Is he living outside year round?
Yeah.
He or her?
So yeah, I have a shed for the days like it's been the last few days where
Uh,
he'll come in. Well, in the wintertime, I bring him in every night in a nice heated shed with some hay and some heat lamps, and they just anytime it's over 45 degrees and sunny out, their shell is 85 to 90
wow.
degrees.
Yeah.
They sitting out basking. So they're pretty low maintenance. They're actually the easiest of my animals that I care for when I compare them to like the hingebacks. he just he's my yard dog basically.
What do you feed a big tortoise like that?
I have like 2 dozen Apuntia cactuses on the property, so he like
Oh,
reaches
wow.
up and nibbles on them. The weeds in my yard, and then like once or
Yeah.
twice a week, I'll supplement with either pellets or grocery store greens
Uh,
or hay.
that's cool.
He eats a lot of
And
hay.
so he's at a size where he's not just like eating everything that you have, like grass wise. I see so many people, have these big giant tortoises and there's
Yeah.
no grass anywhere to be seen.
What's nice is with him is everything that's not a tortoise enclosure in my yard is his tortoise enclosure. So he's got space to
That's
just
cool.
roam around and eat grass here this week and then eat grass over there this week. I'm sure when he gets bigger, I'll run into that problem.
Yeah.
But
Now, I see a lot of people out that way have fences and they have like concrete walls surrounding their yards. Um, how do you kind of keep everything secure and predator proof?
Predator-wise, I got a pack of dogs that have been around
Ah,
turtles since they were little baby puppies. So I
yeah.
trained them basically the same as rattlesnakes training, just to like avoid my tortoises. And fencing, I the only thing I have in the yard that could break out is my Aldabra and Galapagos. But those guys, they're not as determined to break through something as say like a sulcata. Uh, I haven't even seen them try to break out. It's just a normal chain link fence, buried maybe like a foot,
Huh.
but
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
they don't. They're not like a sulcata. Sulcatas, they smell. If a male sulcata smells a female, he's busting down a cinder block wall to find her.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen at our local rescue, and Sean just interviewed Keith Gisser of the Herps Alive Foundation. They have a room where they have their sulcatas, and you go in the rescue, and the room is just like demolished. There's holes in the drywall all around, and you'll like hear this banging sound. It's just
Yeah.
a sulcata taking out, uh, a new chunk of wall.
Hmm.
That's nuts. So
It's wild.
the I mean, I guess you'd be in trouble if you had a couple 300-pound tortoises that were that destructive.
Yeah. Thankfully, the Aldabra and Galapagos, they don't burrow, so they're not
Yeah.
used to digging down like that. So the most I get is like little mud wallows, and I don't get water like that on my fence line. So it's not a
If
big deal.
you having both, if you were, if I came to you and said, Josh, I'm moving to Florida, I'm moving to Arizona, I want a giant tortoise. Should I get a galop or should I get an aldabra? What are the pros and cons of each one?
So the Aldabra was much more timid as a youngster. And when it was smaller, it was so much more timid. The Galop from the get-go was letting me, it was finching for me at like a 7-inch animal. It was feeding out of my hand. Where the Aldabra, it was only till the last like year and a half where he started eating out of my hand and letting me scratch his
Ah,
neck. Other
interesting.
than that, they're both very similar personalities.
Yeah.
I think the Aldabra is more food motivated, where my Galop, if he thinks I might pet him, he'll stop eating. He just starts stretching out.
That, yeah, that's pretty cool when they do that. You
But
ever
I
see
have to
them?
recommend.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say I have to recommend Aldabra because you're
Oh,
better off
okay.
trying to find.
Okay.
You can't.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to find. I want to find more Galops, and they're just not unless you live in like you said Florida. You can't really find them. Florida, California, and Texas. There's very few of them around in Arizona at the moment.
Hmm.
Cameron's like the only guy right now with his it's not CCP, CPP, Chelonian
Yeah.
Propagation Program. That's
Yep.
right now the only way around it. Unfortunate, but
To get them to new states, yeah, you can't sell
no.
a
It seems
federally endangered species.
anti-conservation. It seems anti-conservation in my head, but that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, and I mean there is a process that legally permits that, and it used to
Hmm.
be used, but for whatever reason, the federal government is not approving those permits anymore. Now,
Yeah.
I've been told that the intention is to go to a per animal transaction permit. So instead
That
of
would be so cool.
holding a captive bred wildlife permit and being able to sell to another captive bred wildlife permit owner, you would um, the permit would be issued per transaction. So
That would be
that's what I've
so
heard.
complicated.
It certainly would, and but at least it would be better than what we have now,
Yeah.
which is just we can't do it. And so what I was told is that essentially they have to wait until all of those captive bred wildlife permits expire
Mm,
so that they can implement this new system. But like I said, rumor,
interesting.
can't
Yeah.
say that that's going to happen, but that is what someone told me. So, um, Aldabras obviously can be bought and sold across state
Yeah.
lines, so more easy to get. and I mean they're both gigantic. And um, any have you ever had any health problems with them? Are they pretty hardy?
They're really incredible. Not at all. So I
Okay.
shouldn't say that. When I first got my Aldabra, he had a little bit of an RI when he got to me, but
Mhm.
Sam over at Florida Gone and Tortoises, he like sent he called. I got on the phone with him right away, and he actually sent me medicine, FaceTime me, taught me how to set it all up, and he got my animal back on track in a couple weeks.
He
And ever
seems like
since
a
then, they've been
really,
perfect.
really cool dude. Like just
Yeah,
laid back, you know.
he was awesome. Highly recommend if you're thinking about getting an Aldabra from him.
Yeah, and yeah, he's he's just a guy with a bunch of giant tortoises in Florida. It's
Who doesn't want
pretty
a
darn
yard
cool.
full of dinosaurs?
Oh, so pancakes, Aldabra, Galap, Connexus erosa, Connexus homiana, cherry
I
heads.
have Yeah, I have, 3 Speckeye, one's a little captive bred baby from Andrew
Okay,
Hermes, and then I got a pair of the Congolese Speckeye that Jay
okay.
imported. Those are doing really well too. And, other than that, I think all I'm missing is, my Russian tortoises. I have a group of 1.5.
Ah, are those outside?
They were. I brought them in for the winter because I don't trust their outdoor enclosure at the moment for them not to escape next door. At the moment, it's bordering my neighbor. I'm gonna. I actually talked to Matthew at the year I think you were in, and he set me up properly on how I should border the enclosure to keep him from getting out. He's like the Russian tortoise man.
Yes, he is. Ryan in the chat says that he leans Aldabra greater than Galap. So, Ryan, thanks for joining us tonight. And who else joined us towards the end there? Tony Monahan is also here tonight. So, I think we shouted out everybody. And yeah,
Personality-wise, I think the adult galops, they wind up having similar issues as, like, the sulcatas where they battle each other, the males. So,
mm,
yeah, I think maybe if you might have a group of them, galops would maybe you'd wanna factor that in. Aldabras seem to have no issues, multiple males around each other.
I mean, I can tell you that I have dreams of a large heated pole barn. Um, maybe something that uh, most people would buy for like a horse arena, like an
Yeah,
indoor horse arena. Like I'm
do it.
like thinking that's like the only way I could do it. And maybe in 10 years I could have land and build that and then, you know, watch big giant tortoises grow up. But man, I don't know anyone personally keeping them like in Ohio.
Not
Um,
Ohio. I mean, Barczyk's the only one who I know had an Aldabra that far north,
yeah.
and I mean, that thing's totally indoors, so
Yeah, and he's a professional.
yeah.
He's they're taking it up, like they're putting it in a
Yeah,
bath, lifting it up,
yeah.
and they have people to work with it. So
Good luck doing that in 10 years. They're gonna need, like, 10 people. That thing is gonna get so big.
I mean, they can get like 500 pounds, right?
I think what's the world record? What, like 1,100? If I'm not, or maybe that's Galapagos.
That's
One of them is like a whole world record at like
that's
1,100 pounds.
crazy. The
Yeah,
ones I used to live in Columbus, and the Aldabras at the Columbus Zoo were just gigantic. I mean, it was
it,
just they had to have been at least 500. Huge,
the,
huge.
there's nothing like interacting with those giants. When I was at Jerry's house, I was like, I was as speechless as I've ever been. I just kept saying, "Wow, wow,
Yeah,
they're
and
beautiful."
at it was interesting at the TTPG field trip in 2021 that Weston and I went. We got to be with the Aldabras and the Galabs, and the Galabs they have were actually kind of small. Um,
Yeah,
the different subspecies, and they were much more approachable. Like I didn't feel like my son was going to get bulldozed by one, but the Aldabras, man, that I just remember that being giant. So huge, huge, huge animals.
But yeah, you touched on it there with the different subspecies. There's some of them that don't get, bigger than like a brown or black mountain tortoise, and then some of them 1,000 pounds. I don't know
Mhm.
which specific islands get huge,
Yeah,
but Jerry has them. If you've been to Jerry's place, those guys were just tanks, and they're only like 30 years old. It's incredible. I I can't wait. I just dream. I bought one when I was early 20s, so when I hit my midlife crisis, I wouldn't have to worry about buying a
there
a
you go.
baby dinosaur.
That's
I'll
awesome.
have one already in my yard.
Very cool. Um, and the Congo speaks or specs.
Yeah,
Um, that's an kind of an interesting story because most of our speaks and specs were coming from Mozambique, and in 2018, Mozambique shut down, and we haven't had many speaks hingebacks imported into the country in a while. And so Jay Frewer of Turtles and Tortoises.com had some last summer. So you purchased those, and they're doing pretty well for you.
yeah, they're hanging in there. They haven't lost any weight. They're gaining weight. They're eating. They're a lot more I'd say secretive than even the Homiana. They don't want
Hmm,
anything to do
interesting.
with me. Anytime I'm in the room, they're gone.
Hmm.
Kind of like the pancakes. When I come in the room, the pancakes, boop, they dart away. Where the Homiana, they just suck into the shell. Where my spec eye, they'll just like run from me and go hide.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, I have one now that is a it's a Mozambique import, and I'm trying to figure him out. He does hide a lot, and I'm really looking forward to having him in the like outside this summer. I will bring the Western Hingebacks, and I'll bring the Speaks outside, and just to see what they do. But the Speaks burrow supposedly,
yeah.
and I know Flora Elo is working on a paper about this, and she's got camera traps set up, watching Speaks hingebacks go in and out of burrows. But
That's
that's
cool.
yeah. So I'm like thinking like maybe I should build some kind of burrow system in my backyard for my Speaks, but I need a
I
female.
imagine
Gonna need a female for
I,
that one.
I imagine they'll do it themselves. Mine definitely they got like 6, 7 inches of substrate. They go all the way down to the bottom
Do they?
sometimes.
So they
Oh
dig,
yeah,
yeah. Whereas the
yeah.
Western Hingeback doesn't really dig. They just don't do
Interesting.
that. But the Speaks, I mean, the top of their carapace is flat, 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 and the males are real elongated. It's just unfortunate that so many people confuse those with Belliana because that whole
Yeah.
nightmare is just
I was I was I was about to bring it up. I was gonna say, are your are your bells spec eye doing well?
yeah. So I started with 3 in April of 2022, and I have 1. So
Hmm.
the 2
So you
crashed.
still got one. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. So the 2 of them crashed. One crashed right away when I brought it inside
Yeah,
after the first summer, and
I remember that
the
video.
next one, I tried to keep that thing alive, but it just was too far gone, and in the end, just kind of conked out. That was it sucked.
Did anybody have really any success with those guys?
So Jeremy got 4 at that same time, and um, the they all lived. He
Oh,
kept
that's good.
he kept yeah, he kept them. So he has 1 male and 3 females. Um, the females are crazy um, common. So there's hardly any males. Like there might be one male coming in for every 10 females. So um, it's gonna be the same as Western hingebacks or the other ones. Those things will stop being imported eventually, and then
Yeah.
you'll just have these random pets that people had that, for whatever reason, those tortoises kept going. Maybe the owner just loved it a lot, and it was its only pet, so it pampered it and it survived. Um, and we'll get those survivors and we'll put groups together. But um, Aaron says, 2 years. If we keep these 2 years, then we can hopefully think they're not going to die. Just
Yeah, that's
random,
the problem
because
with,
they just die. They just die.
yeah, that's a big factor why I didn't get into them. I mean, a lot of people who were doing really well with maybe Homiana and some of the other Connexus, they just were dying on them, and I'm like, oh my god,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know
it's
if I want to do this.
it's
I
pretty.
avoided
Well,
them.
my buddy Jack. Everybody, get this man to 1 million subs. Thank you, Jack. We just hit 5,000, so
Hey,
um, I
congrats!
I appreciate it. So, you have your own YouTube channel.
I do.
Tell us a little bit about your efforts and kind of
I
jumping
started
back into
YouTube.
things.
Yeah, I started a long time ago as just some punk kid making snake videos. I worked at BHB, and I was like, oh, I could
Yeah,
be the next Brian. But with everything that's happened with Brian, it's definitely like this hole has been left in the community, and it's not like anybody is going to be able to replace him. But I said in that video where I came back that, man, he did every video every day for how many years? If I can inspire 0.5% of the amount of people that he inspired to love animals with a video a week, I'm already doing the work anyway. Just pull my phone out and record. It's worth it because we're not going to be able to work with these, and there won't be animals to work with if we don't inspire the next generation to love them. That's something Brian understood deeply, and it bled through in everything he did. So that's kind of why I got back into YouTube.
what was his work ethic like
Oh
compared
man, the
to
guy never
normal people?
stopped. See, like he never stopped. And that was the thing. When I worked there, he was filming like venom hunters and Brian in the wild. So he would go, he'd be in Africa 1 week. He'd come home for a couple days. He'd be filming snake bite videos all day, answering emails, and then he'd hop on another plane and go somewhere else. He was go, 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 didn't stop. And he was just incredibly kind. And you could tell he loved the animals. That's what it always killed me, all the stuff people would say. I'm like, you don't really think he's out there neglecting animals. This guy loves his animals and he has a ton of them. you you
Yeah,
look at any population of 50,000 people or 50,000 animals, some of them are going to be sick. And if you hone in on that stuff and trash talk someone, it's nothing to base someone off of. It was
yeah, and
a
I
really
think
wonderful
a lot of
experience working
those
there.
a lot of those people are trolls. They're animal rights trolls
Oh
that
yeah,
just want to rabble rouse and say nobody should own any animals, which is horrible. Um,
ridiculous.
it his dedication, his focus, his drive is pretty spectacular.
Yeah,
I talk to lots of people that complain or you know are down on themselves, and he just kept going, 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 and
right.
went until he could go no more. And I think reading comments, a lot of people were surprised, and I'm like, that just shows you how focused he was, and an incredible
Yeah,
just he has that vision, and he drove to see it happen.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah,
so
I think the best word to describe that guy is passionate. He has this passion that like infected people around him. He got people who didn't love animals to love animals just out of nowhere, just by being around him or watching his videos. It's infectious. Someone like that comes around once a generation. We had Steve Irwin and we had Brian Barczyk. I don't know who the next guy is going to be, but I look forward to that stuff coming out. But I don't think any like
Yeah.
with Steve Irwin. No one replaced Steve Irwin. Brian Barczyk
Yeah.
just was Brian Barczyk, and
Mhm.
he's shown through. You know, and it's very sad.
Yeah, and
We need
I mean,
people inspiring people to love animals.
yeah, that's what we do here. If you're new, thanks for joining us. We talk turtles and do it live. Um, so behind you, we see some racks, and I I was looking at your work with sand boas, and I have always been intrigued with sand boas just because they are an African species, but I really don't know much about them at all. Could you give us a little primer on sand boas?
We could do a whole nother podcast on
Yes,
sambos.
we could.
Uh,
Yeah.
this is basically a piebald sambo.
Wow.
They call them Splash, and Mark Bell decided to name them Splash instead of Pied, so they're called Splash. Basically a piebald. I love Sambo. What do you want to know? I don't know where to
Like
start. I could talk Sambos a
so.
lot.
I mean, I get this impression that they live underground all the time, and you would never see the snake. So what's it like
So the
having
only
a Samboa as a pet? If you just want to start off with one.
it's an exciting animal to feed
Mm.
because you when they're hungry, that's when they're underground. They'll be out exploring all the time in their enclosure during like the nighttime, but when they're hunting, all that's out is like their head above the whether you're using aspen or sand or whatever, their head will be just above the substrate with their eyes. So you'll be poking that mouse around, and then all of a sudden your substrate explodes, and you got a little
Wow.
graboid attacking the mouse. It's very fun. I love them. That's what got me into them. I loved the movie Tremors as a little kid, and when I discovered sand boas, I was like, it's a real life graboid. And now I have I don't know how many, a lot. I produced 108 last year.
That's awesome. They're live bears?
It's fun.
No
Yes,
eggs?
they'll have anywhere from no eggs, not this species anyway. The Saharans lay eggs.
Oh.
I can't think of any others that do. The Calabar pythons lay eggs. Um, yeah, they lay anywhere from like 6 to 20, 30 babies at a time. So it's very fun. Just open the bin one day and then boom, you got a pile of babies. It's like Christmas every single time.
When I
They're
was a
what got me
well,
into.
into herpetoculture.
Go ahead.
Uh, well, I was gonna say I remember seeing them all the time when I was a kid, like a teenager in the '90s. Um, how popular are they today? Am I not seeing them, or I just don't see them as much as I used to. I
So
used to remember seeing them all the time.
they everything goes through like little waves. They have a constant like stream of people wanting to get into sand boas. I
Mhm.
think it's like with any other snake breeding market, the ebbs and flows. Like 2020, I couldn't keep a snake on the shelf. I sold
Mm.
like 25K worth of sand boas almost. It was really a good year. For this year, things are very slow. I still have a lot of sand boas, so uh, they're very
Mikey's
popular, but to an extent, they're not like ball pythons
yeah.
or
Mikey's
corn
wondering
snakes.
what species you like most.
Well,
You
if
had a
I
rough
only keep Kenyans, yeah, I like rough scales. They're very fun. I've had them in the past, but just look wise, I'd probably say the Arabians, just because they're so goofy looking. I love those guys. Can't get them any. I don't know anybody who breeds
Mhm.
them readily. So all I have are the Kenyans. I have a lot. I couldn't tell you how many exactly. This rack is full. It's about as tall as I am.
Is that just for babies or adults too?
Yeah, I have 10 adult males in here.
Oh
Let's
yeah,
pull an
there you
adult
go.
male out, and then the rest are just little hatchlings. Oh, no.
That's cool. Very different.
Thank you.
No
Yeah, they
yellow
they
on
come in
them.
all. Yeah, that was a Gene X Annery paint. They come in all sorts of shades and colors, patterns. Here's a fun one. Oh, this is a really pretty one. Don't bite me. Thank you.
Oh
Very orange.
wow. Is that about as big as they
Yeah.
get?
Males, yeah, males top. Here, I'll grab a female real quick. No, you're gonna bite me. Here's an adult female. This girl they
Oh,
had
yeah, that's
28 babies in 2023.
wow.
Yeah,
What
they
kind
don't.
of morph? Is that the same morph as that male or what?
No, that male was a Gene X Annery paint. This is a Annery paint, or Annery Het paint, Het Gene X. So Gene X and paint are two recessive genes. So that first one I
So
showed you was a triple recessive.
wow.
I have a
Got to
lot
hit
of
on the
them. I could
odds for
keep.
that one.
We could talk Sambo as well.
And
I
then
got
and
quite a
so
few.
like when you say paint, is that that splotching like a paint horse, or what
I
does
will
that
show
mean?
you a comparison. Yeah, I'll show you. So here's a normal pattern Sambo.
I'm gonna put you on full screen here.
Oh, it's so much smaller, but it'll work.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. There's a perfect example of one. So this here is a normal Sambo.
Okay.
Normal pattern, nothing super. I mean, the genes she's carrying are pretty special. And this here is a normal paint. Paint's a simple recessive. Basically, kind of makes it look like a stripe, where the reduces the pattern to spots along the side. And this here is a normal paint. Oh no!
Oh, that's awesome. Wow. That
And
is
then when
super
you
cool.
add
They are neat.
Gene X to that, it reduces the pattern even further to look like. Oh, I have a big one right here. There's It really cleans up the head pattern, and the
Wow.
side pattern gets very reduced. I don't know. It's just the little differences.
Huh. Very cool.
I love them. When you have 100 or so, the little differences start making a difference.
So I've heard a lot about ball pythons and them not being as popular. Um,
Yeah,
what's gonna replace ball pythons, or are we just gonna?
nothing.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, it's hard to say nothing because corn snakes replaced berms, ball pythons replaced corns. I don't know. I'd like it to be sand boas. I would financially be happy, but will it be sand boas? I can't say for sure. It'd probably be some sort of lizard. Realistically, there's all sorts of designer
Interesting.
geckos or chameleons.
Yeah.
If someone can nail down like some really cool new morphs of like crested geckos for more reasonable prices, I could see them skyrocketing.
Yeah.
But I'm no fortune teller.
I mean, it's kind of cool. Yeah. We have the Wild Type podcast with us. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm enjoying uh, Neptune
I
and
almost switched two snakes.
this is
I caught it last second.
yeah. Don't do that. Pay
Yeah.
attention. Yeah. I
I
must
would have
say.
noticed next feeding day and been very confused.
I mean, I don't keep snakes. Um, we're a no snake household because
I was gonna say a lot of married people are that way.
we just are. And my daughter actually, she's really she kind of likes ball pythons. Like I can see her getting one and maybe convincing mom to get one. But
Wonderful pets. They were my
yeah.
first pet snake as a kid, and that's what I worked with at BHB. I used to close my eyes and see ball python patterns. It was something. They're
Well,
really wonderful snakes, though. If you have a good, I'd say nice established animal. The only issue with them is if you stress out when they go on their feeding strikes, because
yeah,
they will go on those strikes, and if you stress, then they're no fun. If you
yeah. It's like a tortoise trying
Yeah.
to lay eggs. Like it's the most stressful thing. Like to get your snake
Okay.
to eat or your tortoise to lay eggs. What's funny is that my first snake was a ball python. Yeah, it was a wild caught animal. I even think it had some ticks on it when I got it. And this was
Really?
probably like 93, 94, and I had it for 6 weeks. It never ate. And so I swapped it at the pet store for an albino black rat snake. And that was my snake for 7 years or something like that.
Those
But
are cool too.
oh, totally, totally. But I always like the ball pythons. And, I mean, I remember getting one of the first reptiles magazines where they talked about ball pythons, and they're like, yeah, some of these ones are piebald, but we're not really sure why that happens. Like,
Could you imagine seeing the first one? You'd be so confused.
yeah, yeah. Um, oh, but who knows? Maybe we'll have a change of heart. But yeah, we're no snake family. But we like to catch wild snakes,
That's
keep
always
them
fun.
around for about an hour, and you know, then let them go. So that's
That's a funny story. That's how I started with my first pet snakes. I would keep them in like tanks outside of the house, and like they'd escape or whatever. Or my dad would just let them out. And without my mom's permission, my dad felt so bad about them escaping. He got me a ball python for Christmas one year without her knowing.
that's
That
awesome.
was that was a fun surprise for everybody.
Yeah, my wife, I would, my wife would kill me. I would be
Yeah.
dead.
It was a great
Oh,
Christmas present. I thought it was from Santa, so Santa was in the doghouse.
Santa. Oh, that's great. I'll just tell my wife that. Like Santa brought me a
You can't get mad at Santa, he's jolly.
what are you talking about? So,
Uh,
well, Josh, I really appreciate you joining us tonight and telling us a little bit about your animals and showing us your snakes. Where can people find you if they want to keep up with what you're up to?
Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, all at Josh McNerlin Reptiles. I try to
Great.
update YouTube every single day with a new short and
Sweet.
new regular uploads every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So
Awesome.
please
Awesome.
watch if you enjoy sand boas and tortoises too, but I'm still newer to tortoises. 5 years is new, yeah,
Yeah.
but
Hey.
you're talking
Tortoises.
20 years till you produce something. 5 years
Yeah.
is still new.
Well, you'll have to make a video when those hingeback eggs hatch.
I've got a video coming out soon of me candling them.
Ah, cool.
I try not to check them too much.
They'll hatch once they're like halfway through. I've only had like one homiana egg not hatch, so it's
I can't wait.
it's pretty it's pretty cool, and you'll have a blast. So,
I'm looking
well,
forward to
everyone,
meeting them.
I'm getting my cough drop is gone, and I'm gonna start coughing like crazy. So, Josh, thank you very much, everyone in the chat. Thank you. We're gonna call it a night. Josh, I really appreciate you joining us,
Yeah,
and
anytime.
have a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch everyone next week. Thanks for joining.
Adios.